Hello, welcome to this Vectorworks tutorial, and I'm going to talk to you today about classes and how classes in Vectorworks can help function. Right, so I'm in my very sort of generic Vectorworks drawing, and I've just drawn a few very simple shapes, right? And if I click on the shape, right, I get information in my object info palette, right? And it tells me that it's a rectangle. It says what class it is, right? And classes are very much what I want to talk about now. If we look at our shape, we can see that it has a white fill that is on the inside of it. It's a different color. It's actually a solid, right? So if I were to move that over top of that circle, the circle is actually covering that. It has a fill. It's not transparent. Now I can control the individual fill for an object, right, from my attributes palette. If I wanted to change that to where it had no fill, now it's just the line that makes up the circle. I can also turn it back to a solid, which is white, and then I can select its color. Maybe I like a nice hot pink, right? So I can change the fill inside. It still has a black line around the outside, but it now has that pink fill. But what if I want to have a whole lot of objects and I want to control all of their fill, or I need to draw a lot of objects that look like this? That's where classes come in handy. And classes, think of a class as a style, of a drawing style, of something that is going to repeat over and over again. And so classes is the very first option in our view bar, right? So our view bar right here, if I hover over that, that gives us classes. The box next to it is strictly a pull-down menu that allows me to select what class is current, but I cannot edit from there. So what I need to do is to click the little icon that's next to it, and I get this box. Vectorworks by default is going to give you two classes automatically. The first one is going to be dimensions, and the next one is none. Right? So I want to go ahead and make a new class. And if I just click the new button down here, and I'm going to give it a name, and I'm going to call it Pink Objects. Right? Now, looking at all this, create, import the class, all of that's fine. When we get to the bottom down here, there is a little checkbox that says edit the properties after creation. And I would like to do that. I would like to define what my pink box is going to look like. So I'm going to hit OK. At this point, it brings me into a much larger dialog box, right, which is where I edit classes. The name is Pink Objects. And there's a very important checkbox here called Use at Creation. Let's make sure that is checked. Let's go to my color, and let's make it that bright pink that we were using. And I believe that we can leave the rest of this alone. That's the only thing that I want to change. And so now I will say OK. To select which class you're working on, which class you are drawing on, you need to change where this little check mark is. So I'm just going to check Pink Objects. You can see it becomes bold, right? It's a Use at Creation. Right? And so I am just, that's what I'm going to be drawing on when I say OK. So now if I draw another shape, let's draw another oval here, a long skinny one, right? It has all of those attributes of my pink objects. Now, if we look at this, we changed this one manually. We have not assigned this to our class. Let's go over in select the object and go into our object info. And if we do a pull down, we'll see the classes that are available to us. And let's change that to Pink Object. Do you want the selected objects to use the graphic attributes of the new class? And I am going to say yes. I want it to look like everything else, right? So let's draw a rectangle. If we draw a long skinny rectangle here, it's also going to have all of that, right? So it's a style, right? So what if we want to change that? What if we decide that pink isn't really the color that we want, that we would like to change something else and go to something else. Do I need to select every pink object that I have drawn? No, I can actually just go back into my object, into my classes page, and this time I'm going to edit it. I get my same dialog box, I come over here, and let's change them to yellow and say okay, okay. All of the objects that are drawn on that class now have those attributes, whether that's fill or line type. Let's do another one. Let's go into my classes, and I will make a new class, and I'm going to call this thick lines. Thick lines. And again, I want to edit these properties after creation. I'll say OK. And this time I'm going to check use at creation. But instead of altering the fill, what I want to do is affect the line itself. And I want to make this line thicker. So rather than the super narrow 0.005, let's go for a pretty fat line. Let's go for a 0.7. And that's all I have to do is say OK. Now, in order for me to draw on that class or draw with that class, it says think lines, doesn't it? Edit, edit, and let's call it thick. There we go. Change where my little check mark is. I select that, I say OK, and now everything that I draw is going to have this nice thick line associated with it instead of that super thin line. A class is a style, right? We use that as a style. So if you're going to be drawing lots of objects that have thick lines and pink fills, create a class for that. We can also then turn classes on or off. I can turn off their visibility, and that's done with these little eyeballs here. If I were to go in and set the pink objects, which are now yellow, right, to off, they will now disappear. They are not displayed. So I can control visibility through class. I can also set them to where they are visible but grayed out, and that's by selecting this little gray eyeball, the third column in, and now they exist. They're there, but I can't select them. I can't interact with them. They're just a shadow of themselves, right? So I'm going to go back in and turn them back on and say OK. So that's an introduction to classes. Classes do more than that, but I'm going to end this video now, and I'll revisit them in more detail in the next video. Thanks.